I have been touched by the Jewish community on a few occasions throughout my life. That has had a really big impact on me and the person I think that I am today. The first impact was my father, William Hugh Jenner, landed on Omaha Beach. 5th Ranger Battalion, the first boat's on. Somehow, he survived through World War II. But his troops, the 5th Ranger Battalion, were the first ones into this Buchenwald. When I was a young boy, I remember he took some pictures of railroad cars stacked 20 feet high with bodies. And as a young boy, I couldn't figure out why would anybody do that. And even to this day, it always affected me that my dad, who was only 23 years old, had to see something like that. That was the first time. The second time was many, many years later, when again I was touched by what happened to Israel. I went to the 1972 Olympic Games, my first Olympics. I was 22. Nobody ever expected me to make it on the team. I certainly never even expected to either, but boom, there I was. I got 3rd place at the trials, and I went to Munich. Woke up that morning, and a guy named Steve Prefontaine, who unfortunately we lost in a car accident a few years later, came in my room, and he said, "Hey, something's going on outside." He says, "I don't know what it is, but something's going on." I went to the place where we eat at the Commons, came back out and found out that terrorists had came in and took over the Israeli athletes. I really didn't know at that time. I was 22. I didn't know what the conflicts were, what the issues that the Jewish community is going through. And so I was with a group of guys, and they said, "You know, there's a place you can see what's going on." The Puerto Rican team had, their rooms were right next to what was going on. So they said, "Come on up." We went up, and we crawled out on our knees out onto the porch. And I looked across the walkway, and there, standing in the doorway, was that very famous picture of that guy in the hat holding, I think it was a rifle. And so, of course, I ducked and went back in. I really have been affected by a lot of those things that happen throughout my life. And it's always been very personal. Since then, I live in Los Angeles. I go to a lot of Jewish weddings, by far the most fun weddings to go to. Let's hear it for that. Been to many bar mitzvahs, so as I was downstairs and watching, what I really like about the Jewish community is how they are so committed to family. I really feel like a true measure of a country's character is how they treat their minorities. King David speaks to this exact notion in one of his Psalms where he says, "Uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed, rescue the weak and the needy, deliver them from the hand of the wicked." Because of this, I find it important to use my platform to highlight nations like Israel that have enacted policies and are promoting cultures that are supportive of the LGBT community. For instance, Israel has no restrictions on military service based on sexual orientation or gender identity. In 1993, Israel became one of the first countries to protect the rights of the transgender soldier, providing them and this is key, with a constitutional right to serve. Today, Israel is only one of 19 nations whose armies allow transgender people to serve. I do wonder sometimes why there is such a strong connection between the LGBT and the Jewish communities. It seems, well, first of all, we seem to attract a lot of the enemies, don't we? Tyrants, religious fundamentalists, white nationalists, radical Islamic terrorists, we got them all. I wear that hatred as a badge of honor. They hate us because of what we stand for: freedom, opportunity, diversity, and most of all, and I think this was most unites our communities, we stand for love. We celebrate diversity. Tel Aviv was just named the world's best gay city. For the entire Middle East and the rest of the world, Israel is a beacon of hope. In a region where entire religions are banned, women are persecuted, and gay men are sentenced to death, Israel is a long-standing refuge for the LGBT people. There is always more work to be done to ensure that all LGBT people in the Middle East are treated fairly and equally. I support the LGBT people in Israel and throughout the region who are fighting for basic human dignity. When I visited Israel years ago, the people were wonderful and I could feel the history, and I'm sure most of you have all been there. It's kind of like it's in the air. You know that feeling that there's something so special that has been happening throughout history for the millennial? It's somewhere timeless.